Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is iGoRawr and welcome to Let's Auraxium, and today we are going to be looking at two very similar weapons that I see people constantly comparing, the TRAC-5 and the Jaguar. Now every weapon in PlanetSide is intended to be a side grade to one another, but when you take two weapons of the same weapon type, the same fire rate, and the same damage, you run into an issue. Even though there might be differences that set the two weapons apart, with so many crucial stats being very similar to one another, you can't help but feel that one weapon is, well, better in about 99% of situations, and I can honestly say this is the case with these guns. Now before we look at the stats, I do need to mention one thing. If you see the footage of the gun with the white camo, that is the Jaguar. And if you see the footage of the gun in the black camo, that is the TRAC-5. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's look at the Dakka, the stats. Let's look at the stats. Dakka, god damn it. First, let's start with what's similar about these two weapons. Starting off with fire rates of 750 rounds a minute, a damage model of 143 damage up to 10 meters, dropping off to 112 damage at 60 meters. They are both intended for medium to short ranges, and they are both the second fastest killing carbine available to the Terran Republic. And their final similarity is a magazine size of 40 rounds. Now let's move on to what sets these two weapons apart. First is the TRAC-5's velocity of 490 meters per second, and the Jaguar's velocity of 440 meters per second. Next is the reload speeds of 2.6 seconds for a short and 3.7 seconds for a long reload on the TRAC-5, and 2.7 seconds for a short and 3.9 seconds for a long reload on the Jaguar. Now with just this information alone, it would look like the TRAC-5 is the superior choice, but once you start digging into the accuracy and recoil stats, you're gonna start seeing the issue this gun has. Next is the cone of fire stats. I'll put the numbers on screen for you to look at, but in short, all you need to know is the TRAC-5 is slightly more accurate while aiming down sights, and the Jaguar is slightly more accurate when firing from the hip. And finally are the recoil values. The vertical recoil on the Jaguar is higher by a tiny bit, but it's really the horizontal recoil that sets these two guns apart. The TRAC-5 comes in with a recoil value of 0.225 horizontal recoil per shot, with one of the sharpest horizontal recoil values of any carbine in the game at 23 to 25 degrees. And the Jaguar comes in with a horizontal recoil value of 0.243 to 0.273, with a horizontal recoil angle of absolute 0. Meaning that this gun will only recoil upwards with no pull to the left or right. This is a huge advantage, and I cannot stress enough how big of a difference it makes for this gun. Anyone that's ever experienced weapons like the Pulsar C or the Mercenary will know just how easy it is to handle a weapon that only recoils in a single direction. Now when it comes to the attachments, just about everything you would expect is available to both these weapons, but the Jaguar does have the ability to equip an advanced laser sight and can use soft point ammo, as where the TRAC-5 cannot. So between these two weapons, who do I think is the winner? And the answer has to be the Jaguar, by a long shot. I don't even know where to start, so let's just begin with the very basic reasons as to why I think it's better than the TRAC-5. When it really comes down to it, every stat of a weapon can be broken down into three categories: its time to kill, its effectiveness at range, and its utility. The TRAC-5 and the Jaguar are tied for time to kill. I mean, you could argue that the Jaguar actually does have a slightly faster time to kill because it can have soft point ammo, but I don't really count that. So then you have to move on to its effectiveness at range, and I've always felt way more comfortable with the Jaguar. With no horizontal recoil to deal with, even with a lower velocity, it was still way easier for me to down my targets at range. Yes, the velocity of the TRAC-5 is higher by a reasonable amount, but by the time you're at the ranges where that sort of boost in velocity would have made a difference, you're already fighting against the TRAC-5's harsh and unpredictable recoil. If you have some sort of skill set where you're incredibly good at compensating for randomized and hard horizontal recoils, but you really suck at leading your targets, then maybe this weapon is for you, but I've talked to a lot of players about this already, and I've yet to find someone with that sort of skill set. So for just about everyone, the Jaguar would win in this category, and that leaves us with the utility of the weapon. Now, the TRAC-5 does have better reloads, but it's by a super small margin, and considering the fact that the TR already have the longest reload speeds, what's another 1/10 of a second already added on to a long reload anyways? But there is one piece of information I have withheld about the Jaguar, because I know with the information that I've already shown you, most people would agree that the Jaguar is for the most part better. And here's the one piece of information I've withheld because it's an absolute bombshell. The Jaguar manages to do all these amazing things better than the TRAC-5 for the most part, and it manages to do it all with a 0.75 ADS speed multiplier. I don't see why you would use the TRAC-5. But although I feel like the Jaguar is better in just about every situation, I don't necessarily think the TRAC-5 is a terrible weapon. It's just bad in comparison to what else is available to it. It's possible to do extremely well with the TRAC-5. I could do anywhere from as low as a 2.5, and even in the best scenarios, I managed to get it high as a 12 KDR because I'm a sneaky light assault bastard. It's just that with the Jaguar, I normally sat around a 5 to a 7 KDR on a good day, as where with the TRAC-5 I would be pushing a 4.5 to a 5.5 on a good day. I could just never make it perform quite as good as the Jaguar did, no matter how hard I tried. So when it really boils down to it, the TRAC-5 and the Jaguar are just hand jobs. The Jaguar being the tried and true rub and tug, and the TRAC-5 being one of little enthusiasm, and also she has a hangnail. Objectively, these are both great things, but when you compare one to the other, one's gonna stand out as the truly better hand job. I mean, unless you got some sort of fetish, then you're a TRAC-5 user. Also, I would like your number. Anyways, moving on. So I always try to look at the silver lining of weapons and try to look for at least one thing that they do well, and when it comes to the TRAC-5, I have found one situation where it is a fair bit better than the Jaguar, and that is suppression. Now, I'm not a big fan of putting suppressors on my guns because I do feel like staying stealthy in planetside is a lot more about staying out of sight, picking off stragglers, and trying to drown out your noise with the rest of the Dakka of the rest of the battle. But there are times where suppressors are appropriate. Because of the velocity drop-off of a suppressor, I do feel like the effective range of the TRAC-5, when suppressed, better matches up with the ranges of where you start fighting with the gun over its hard-to-control recoil pattern, as where the Jaguar will start to feel sluggish at the ranges where the TRAC-5 suppressed will still be effective. But outside of that, the Jaguar just does it better. At longer ranges, it's way more easy for me to control, and at shorter ranges, it has soft point ammo, a tighter hipfire cone of fire, and a 0.75 ADS speed multiplier. The TRAC-5 has some advantages over the Jaguar on paper, but all of those advantages are diminished by other negative aspects of the gun, turning it into what is essentially a mess of double-edged hangnails, double-edged swords. Now, I know I've beaten this into your head long enough, but I'm going to continue talking because I love listening to the sound of my own voice. But I personally feel like the TRAC-5 needs to be changed. Not just because it's outclassed by the Jaguar in just about every single way, but because I would put it on the Gossaw's level of being a bad default weapon. Even someone like me, who has played more planetside than any human being should, I had a lot of trouble using the TRAC-5 when I first started, and it took me about 300 or so kills to really get a good handle on the weapon. For a newer player who doesn't fully understand every little kink and aspects of the shooting mechanics in planetside, I could only imagine just how frustrating this weapon could be to handle. It was done with the carve, and that weapon found its way into my heart as one of my favorite LMGs in the game. And if they gave the same treatment to the TRAC-5 and just made its horizontal recoil just a little bit easier to control, it would have a much more solid role in the TR's carbine lineup. Anyways, guys, that's it for this time. My name's iGoRawr, and I'm gonna go get a sad hand job. I'll see you next time. Hey, Rod Tech, get your ass over here! I do. Gif, I challenge you. What are 5 reasons to not want the D?
Can't do as much heroin.
Okay, I need 4 more.
Only one gets circle jerked at a time.
What about Shrek?
Okay, I need 1 more then. He counts as a lot, dude.
But you can't be eating that dirt.
Okay, you're right. You're right, you're right. You... Why do we do these things? We played NC too long!